They said it with a laugh. "It's just a joke, Gran." As if that made it better. As if my cottage had been turned inside out. The rugs sticky with cider and worse. The air thick with a sour-sweet chemical haze drifting from the spare room. And 6 strangers snoring across my sitting room floor. As if any of that was funny. At 76, I've seen enough funerals, bankruptcies, and betrayals to lose the capacity for shock. But I was not prepared for this particular brand of humiliation inside my own 4 walls. And I was certainly not ready for the heavy knock on the door at 2:30 in the morning. It began with music. Not loud at first, just a low, steady thump of bass rising through the floorboards. I thought I was dreaming until the laughter followed. Bright, careless, young laughter that ricocheted off the beams like thrown glass. I sat up, reached for my glasses on the nightstand, and understood 2 things instantly. The music was real, and I was no longer alone in Willow Cottage. I shuffled downstairs in my old flannel nightgown and sheepskin slippers, already knowing whose face I would see. Lily, my granddaughter, 19, restless, forever figuring things out. She had begged to stay just a few nights 3 weeks ago, suitcase in hand, eyes brimming with stories about impossible flatmates in Bristol. I should have said no. But blood is blood. And when your own flesh stands shivering on the doorstep in the rain, you open the door. You make up the little back bedroom. You heat soup. That is what grandmothers do. Only now the back bedroom door stood wide open, and the air inside tasted burnt, sharp, metallic, wrong. I did not go in. I turned the corner into the sitting room, and there they were. Lily sprawled across the sofa, a plastic cup balanced on her stomach, someone else's leather jacket draped over her legs. A boy with violet hair was dancing by himself in front of the fireplace. 2 girls giggled over a phone on the rug. Bottles everywhere, cider, cheap vodka, something fluorescent. My favorite Wedgwood lamp lay in pieces. And in the middle of it all, Lily lifted one hand and waved at me as though I were a mildly interesting piece of furniture that had learned to speak. "Gran, you're awake. We were trying to keep it down." "Turn it off," I said. My voice came out thin, like paper tearing. "Chill," she grinned, swaying as she stood. "It's just a joke, Gran. We're celebrating." I don't know which word made me angrier, the joke or the way she said Gran, like it was a pet name for a harmless old dog. I stood there in my own sitting room, wearing the nightgown I'd patched twice, staring at the wreckage and realizing I had no control left. None at all. "This is my home," I said. Lily rolled her eyes. "You told me I could have a couple of friends over." "A couple?" I pointed toward the kitchen where a stranger lay face down on the tiles, shoes off, socks mismatched. "You said 2 people. It's midnight. "That's not illegal." I didn't say it was. I said it's my house. And that was when the knock came. Not a polite tap, a deliberate official knock. Once, twice, a third time, harder. Everyone froze. Even the music cut dead. Lily's face changed. "I swear, Gran, if you rang the police—" "I didn't ring anyone," I said, but someone had. Through the gap in the curtains, I caught the slow pulse of blue and red against the hedge. Lily swore under her breath and lurched toward the door. "Don't say anything," she hissed over her shoulder. "Let me handle it." I stayed exactly where I was and watched her plaster on a smile that didn't fit. "Officers, hi!" I couldn't hear the first exchange, but I saw the two men clearly. One young, maybe 25, stone-faced. The other older, weary around the eyes. Both stepped inside. "Whose house is this?" the older one asked. Lily jerked a thumb toward me. "My Gran's. Can we speak with her?" The younger officer, Harris, I later learned, looked straight at me. "Ma'am?" I stepped forward, heart hammering against my ribs like it wanted out. "We've had a noise complaint," Harris said. "Neighbors also reported possible drug use. Do you know these people?" I looked at the strangers, the broken lamp, the cider-soaked rug, and Lily waiting for me to lie. "They're my granddaughter's friends," I said. "They were not invited." Lily's head snapped around. "Gran..." "She told me she'd have 2 people over," I continued. "I did not agree to this." The older officer, Sergeant Wells, nodded once. "We'll need everyone to leave. We may also need to search if there's reasonable cause." Lily's voice shot up an octave. "You can't just search my Gran's house." "Actually," Wells said calmly, "if we suspect illegal activity and the homeowner requests it, we can. Ma'am," he turned to me, kind but firm, "you're within your rights to ask us to proceed." I should have hesitated. I should have protected her the way I always had. When she wrote off her mother's car, when she borrowed 50 pounds from my purse and swore it was a mistake, when my son James insisted she was just going through a phase. I had spent decades protecting her. But I looked at the broken lamp, the stains spreading across my mother's rug, the strangers who didn't even know my name. I said, "You can proceed." And for the first time in years, I felt something solid inside my chest. Not weakness, just ice-cold clarity. They asked everyone to sit. One of the girls, barely 17, freckles and attitude, protested she had rights, that they needed a warrant. Harris answered evenly, "No one's under arrest yet, miss, but you're not leaving until we say." That word, yet, made Lily go very still. She sank onto the sofa, arms wrapped tight around herself, chewing the inside of her cheek the way she did when she was 8 and caught stealing biscuits. Sergeant Wells took statements one by one while Harris stayed with me in the kitchen. The chairs still smelled of beeswax. I'd polished them only yesterday like a fool expecting gratitude. "How many people did your granddaughter say would be here?" Harris asked gently. "She said 2. I gestured toward the sitting room where the music had started again, low and sullen. "This is more. Were you aware of any alcohol or drugs in the house?" I shook my head. "Not until tonight." He wrote something down. "You're not in any trouble, ma'am, but depending on what we find, we may need to bring her in." My stomach lurched. Even now, a part of me wanted to shield her, to see the little girl who once pressed daisies between the pages of my gardening books. But that part was shrinking fast. In the sitting room, Wells had opened a black rucksack someone had tried to hide behind the sofa. Small plastic bags glinted inside. I didn't need to ask what they held. "That's not mine," Lily blurted. Wells didn't raise his voice. "It was behind the sofa you've been sitting on all night. I didn't put it there." The freckled girl piped up. "I saw her with it earlier." "You little..." Lily lunged, but Harris caught her arm. "Enough," he said. "Everyone's coming to the station for statements. If there's nothing to charge, you'll be released." "I live here," Lily cried, turning to me. "Gran, tell them I live here." "You're staying here," I corrected. "You do not live here, and I never gave permission for any of this." Her eyes filled. "You're really doing this to me?" I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say that I hadn't already said in softer, useless ways. They lined the kids up in the hallway. Harris lingered a moment, handed me a card. "If you need to follow up, ring that number. And ma'am, you did the right thing." I nodded, but I didn't thank him. I simply closed the door after the last of them and stood in the sudden, terrible silence. It wasn't the absence of noise that hurt. It was the weight of every time I'd said she's young, every time I'd cleaned up, paid up, shut up. I went upstairs, changed into an old cardigan and corduroys, came back down. The cottage stank of sweat and spilled drink. I opened every window, dragged bin bags through the rooms, swept shards of wedgewood into dustpans. I worked like an automaton, as though scrubbing the night away might reset the years. At 3:17, the phone rang. Unknown number. I let it ring out. It rang again at 3:22. I answered. "Gran," Lily's voice was hoarse. "They're not charging me yet. They said maybe I can go in the morning. Can you come get me?" Silence. "Please, I swear I didn't know about the bag. You know I'd never—" "I'm tired, Lily. Just tell them I'm not—" I hung up. 10 minutes later, it rang again. I left it. I opened the drawer by the stairs where I kept emergency cash. 2 weeks ago, I'd tucked in £100 in case she needed anything. The envelope was still there. I took it out, looked at it, then tore it into smaller and smaller pieces until only confetti remained. By 4:45, the cottage was clean. Imperfectly, the cider stain would need professional help, but clean enough. I made tea, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my gardening notebook to a fresh page. 17 October, I wrote. Today, I stopped making excuses. Morning brought a heavier silence, the kind that waits for you to change your mind. I did not. At 9:42 came a call I didn't recognize. I let it ring to voicemail, then panicked. What if it was the station? The message was from Sergeant Wells. Lily had been released, but had no transport. Could someone collect her within the hour? I stared at the cracked plaster ceiling and pictured the script. I arrive, she emerges tear-stained, promises it will never happen again. We drive home in silence. By evening, her music thumps through the floorboards once more. That is how these stories reset, unless you refuse the reset. I did not ring back. At 10:51, my son James rang. He hadn't phoned since June when he needed me to co-sign something he didn't want his wife to see. "Mom, what the hell is going on?" "Good morning, James. Bella says she spent the night in a police station because you called the cops on her?" "The neighbors called. I simply didn't lie. She's 19. And I'm 76. She brought drugs and strangers into my home." Silence. Then, "She says it wasn't hers." "Maybe it wasn't, but she lied again." "You could have ruined her life." "I cleaned up after her again. That's what I didn't do this time. Make myself small so she could stay large." "That's not fair." "No," I said quietly. "It never was." He hung up. By noon, the texts began. "Gran, I'm sorry. Please let me come back. I have nowhere to go. You don't care if I end up on the street?" I switched the phone to silent. I cared. Of course I cared. But caring had become a rope they used to drag me wherever they wanted. I made a cheese sandwich, ate it slowly in the sunroom, listening to the clock tick. Then I opened the fireproof box where I kept the important papers. My will hadn't been touched since Derek died 8 years ago. Back then, Lily was still doing her A-levels, and James came for Sunday lunch twice a month. Back then, we were still pretending to be a family. 3 hours later, I rang my solicitor and made an appointment for Tuesday. Then I rang the bank and arranged to see Mrs. Carter on the same day. That evening, the doorbell rang. I knew before I opened it. James stood on the step with a woman in a navy suit clutching a clipboard, some sort of family mediator. "James, This is Helen French. We'd like to talk. I stepped aside. They sat on the sofa. I remained standing. Helen smiled the trained smile. Mrs. Eleanor Hayes, I understand there's been a breakdown in communication. I wouldn't call it recent, I said. James sighed. We're not here to fight. Then why are you here? Helen leaned forward. Your granddaughter has nowhere to stay. We're hoping to mediate. She threw a party with drugs in my house. She claims she didn't know. She's 19, not 9. James cut in. She could have been charged. She could have lost me this cottage, I replied. Do you understand that? Helen made a note. James flushed. So where is she supposed to go? That's your job, James. You're her father. We don't have room. You had room when I paid her university fees, when I covered rent she forgot to apply for. You had room then. Silence. Helen tried again. Have you considered structured family dialogue? I've spent decades structuring silence. It didn't help. Jane stood. I didn't come here to be attacked. No, I said, opening the door. You came hoping I'd fooled. If Lily wants to write me a proper letter, I'll read it. Otherwise, no more guilt parades. They left. I locked the door, slowly, deliberately, and for the first time in years, the click sounded final. That night, the porch light flickered on by itself, motion sensor. I parted the curtain. A boy in a dark hoodie crouched by the steps. When I tapped the glass, he bolted. In the planter lay a vape pen. I retrieved it with a tissue, sealed it in a plastic bag, and left a note for Sergeant Wells. Next morning, the steps were dusted with cigarette ash. Someone had stood there long enough to smoke too. I swept it away without ringing anyone. Yet. At 10:02, the phone rang. Hey, Lily's voice flat, exhausted. So this is how it is now. You left drugs in my house. I didn't. Then who did? Silence. I'm staying with Connor, she muttered. Connor, skinny, mean-mouthed boy I'd met once. Are you safe? She laughed, bitter. What do you care? I asked a question. I don't know, Gran, maybe not. But that's what you want, right? For me to suffer? I want you to feel consequences. There's a difference. Another silence. Dad says you're changing your will. I already have. You're cutting us off? I didn't answer. You think this makes you strong, leaving your granddaughter homeless? You have a phone, you have legs. You're 19. She hung up. I opened the drawer of keepsakes, birthday cards, school photos, the poem she wrote aged 9 that began, You smell like lavender and safety. I placed everything in a shoebox, taped it shut, wrote later on the lid. One day she might earn them back. Marlene from next door brought lemon drizzle and sympathy. You always were the steady one, Eleanor. Maybe I should have wobbled more. I'd have seen sooner. You're allowed peace, she said, and left before I could argue. On Tuesday, I put on my navy coat with the good buttons and went first to the bank, then to the solicitor. I revoked James's power of attorney, closed the joint account, canceled the standing orders that kept flowing out of my pension like water down a drain. I removed James as executor, made Lily's inheritance conditional on behavior I no longer had to define for anyone else. When I came home, the cottage felt different. Not happier, just mine. Thursday afternoon, there was a knock. Firm, respectful. Lily stood on the step. Backpack, no makeup, hair in a tired ponytail. She looked smaller. I'm not here to fight, she said quickly. 5 minutes, then I'll go. I let her in. She stood in the middle of the room, arms crossed. I know I messed up. I know you're angry. I'm not
angry, I said. I'm finished pretending it doesn't matter. She nodded at the floor. I didn't know about the bag, but I knew enough to lie. Silence. I got used to you always fixing things. I never thought what it cost you. It cost more than money. I know. Her voice cracked. I don't expect to come back. I just wanted you to hear I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not with Connor anymore. I'm at a friend's. She pulled an envelope from her pocket. Like you said, a letter. I took it but didn't open it. I'll go, she said. I watched her walk away. When the door closed, I placed the envelope in my bedside drawer unopened. Some truths need to wait until morning. I read the letter at the kitchen table the next day, no ceremony. Gran, I don't know how to fix this, and I don't think words are enough. But I've been thinking, really thinking about what I did. You didn't deserve any of it. You were the only person who kept showing up, and I treated that like it was nothing. I see now you shouldn't have had to. I'm sorry. I'm trying to change. I don't expect you to believe me yet. I just hope one day you might want to talk again. If not, I understand. No excuses, no demands, just ownership. It didn't erase anything, but it was the first thing she'd ever given without taking. That afternoon, I mailed a revised confirmation to the solicitor and a check to a charity for young women leaving care, quietly, anonymously, because someone has to show the next generation that consequences don't have to be cruel, only clear. A week later, Officer Harris returned the vape pen, no name, no charge, and told me the file was closed. Some families never recover. Others learn to move differently, not the same, but not broken. I wore Derek's favorite teal dress for no reason other than I still fit inside my own life. I baked fish, lit a candle, ate at the table like I mattered. Lily rang that night. Thank you for reading the letter. I did. I meant it. I know. I have a job interview. Stock assistant at the greengrocer's. Might need a reference. You can use me, I said, but only if you tell them the truth about yourself. She exhaled, shaky. I'd like to bring dinner one day. When you're ready. Not yet. But maybe. James came a fortnight later. No mediator, no demands. Just stood in the sitting room looking suddenly older. I didn't know it had got that bad, he said. You never asked. I started sorting my own finances, he said, cleaning up my side of the street. Good. I'd like to visit sometime, just to sit. Maybe, I said, and for the first time he accepted the maybe without pushing. At the parish hall meeting about youth disturbance, they called me to speak. I told them, not about noise, about disappearing inside your own house, about silence not being consent, about how we teach young people they can take if we never stop giving. Afterwards, an older woman touched my arm. Thank you for saying it out loud. Autumn deepened. I cleaned gutters myself, baked coffee cake because I had survived something, left half on the greengrocer's counter with Lily, no note. She left the empty tin on my porch 2 days later. Clean, no message, just returned.
Sundays, she sometimes comes. We drink tea. She brings scones or laundry or nothing at all. We do not talk about the night that broke everything open. We talk about ordinary things. Her shift, my hydrangeas, the price of parsnips. Easy things that do not bleed. I never gave the key back. It lives in the drawer by the kettle, not hidden, not offered, just waiting until trust grows at its own pace. Some Sunday she might earn it again. Some Sunday she might not need it. Either way, the cottage is quiet, the rugs are clean, and when I walk from room to room, I no longer apologize for taking up space. I am Eleanor Hayes. I am 76. I am still here, and that is enough. Subscribe our channel for more stories like this. Thanks for watching.